guess I'll go first. Hi, everybody. My name's Danny. I'm an addict.
Hey, Danny.
This is a really odd workshop because it's an odd topic for a workshop to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. You'd think it would be really easy, right? Because it's like, oh, yeah, we all go through that. You know, that's what living life is, you know. Before I got clean, when I was using, there was no such thing as living life on life's terms. I tried my damnedest to not live life. You know, I often hear people refer to, their drug of choice. And I don't know about anybody else, but towards the end of the time that I was using, my drug of choice became passed out. Because that was the only time I was okay. Which, think about it. We talk about that there's only 3 things that the disease of addiction leads to: jails, institutions, and death. And we talk about it when we read our literature, we talk about that we're trying to commit suicide, We don't recognize it. But here it was that the only time I was comfortable was when I was passed out. Because I didn't like me. I didn't like anything about me. I didn't like living life. I didn't like to feel anything. I didn't want to feel anything. So I did everything to not feel. I used nonstop and continuously. So here I decide, I get clean. I come to the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. And suddenly, I turned into this, drama queen. I was upset. Everything bothered me. Everything was a problem. And I'd come to meetings and I'd talk about all this stuff. I had a sponsor really early on. And one of the things that he said to me, when I got clean, there wasn't a whole lot of clean time where I got clean. And my sponsor only had 90 days clean, the guy that my first sponsor. And he said to me, Danny, you got to learn how to become an open book. And people today will talk about, they'll hand somebody a basic text and they'll say, open up to the first page. What do you see there? Nothing, right? But it's an open book because there's nothing there. But what he was referring to is becoming open, allowing people to get to know me. I often hear people talk about the old timers used to say, sit down and shut up. Of course, they used an expletive in there, right? And I think the reality is that there's a lot more to it than that. There's 2 kinds of people. There's those who want to come in here and bloviate. They want to talk for the sake of talking. They want to, say anything and everything. And that's how they're trying to find acceptance. That's their MO. And it's all ego-based. So, and those people need to be told, hey, you know what? Why don't you keep your mouth shut? Maybe not in such nice terms, but, reality. Why don't you keep your mouth shut? Stick around. Learn about you. But then there's other people who are like me, who wanted to keep everything inside, who didn't want to let people know who they were, who wanted to be a chameleon. I wanted to blend in. See, to me, that part of anonymity really is appealing. That part of anonymity that says that I'm the same as, and I don't stand out. That part is very, very appealing to me, But my sponsor said to me, learn how to become an open book. He told me to sit in the front, raise my hand, and talk, and share. And like I said, as a result, I kind of turned into this drama queen. Everything was a problem. All of life was a problem. And I would share this insane stuff, and people would look at me and I'd look for answers and solutions, and people would say, Danny, we love you. Keep coming back. And it's that's all they ever said to me. That's all I can really remember, because it's been a while now, right? So, and they would just say that, Danny, we love you. Keep coming back. They were always saying that to me, Danny, we love you. Keep coming back, And I kept coming, and I kept talking, and I kept sharing, and I started working the steps, And through the steps, I began to gain experience in living life. I began to develop coping skills. And one of the principles in the first step is acceptance. And to me, that's a real key to living life on its own terms. You know, one of my absolute all-time favorite movies is a movie called Forrest Gump, right? And there's a scene in the movie towards the, you know, where it's towards the end of the movie, you know, and there's all this really interesting stuff happens to you. But there's a scene, and he's running, and he's got all these people running along with him, right? And these people would come up to him while he's running, and they'd ask him like questions and stuff, and they're trying to get information from him because they thought he was some kind of guru or something, right? And he's running along, and it's like, and the guy says, "Wow, you just stepped in a gigantic pile of dog crap," and he's like, "It happens." And that's life. That's life on its own terms. And it's real simple like that. It's just that's life on its own terms. It happens. Sometimes life is really, really good. And sometimes life is painful. Sometimes life is hard. You know, my early years clean. You know, it wasn't easy. I lived through the death of my father. I lived in, first off, you know, I lived in my parents' living room for 6 years after I got clean. You know, not even my own room. I was in the living room. You know, it was like no privacy. You know, this is back before cell phones. You know, so if I wanted to have a private conversation, I had to go down the street to the payphone. You know, and so there was no privacy. But I lived through the death of my father, and my father was my hero, man. He was the one person I always looked up to. He really was a war hero, from, you know, and watching him die was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. But I would go to meetings and I'd share about it, and I'd talk about it, and I'd share the pain. And people kept telling me the same thing: "Danny, keep coming. We love you, man. Just keep coming. Share that stuff. Talk about it. Share your feelings." And I got through it. And when he did pass away, probably a very spiritual moment in my life. You know, I was at work. I was in the belly of a sewage treatment plant. Literally underground. And I knew he had died. That's a very spiritual connection to me. You know, and then they came over the loudspeaker a little while later and said, "Dan, you know," they said my name and whatnot. I said, "Come to the office," and I was like, I already knew what the problem was. You know, and I went there and they said, "You probably need to go home." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, cool." You know, and it was living life on life's terms. We can get through anything. We can get through death. We can get through breakups. We can get through heartbreaks. We can get through everything. We don't have to use, because that's what it is. It's life on life's terms. My sponsor's been clean for a while, right? And for many years, you know, every year at his birthday, you know, we give out these chips and these coins, right? And when you get to the you get to your clean date, you know, they give you a little black chip after you've been clean for 2 years or more, right? And he'll get up and he'll get his black chip, and then people will ask him, you know, it's become compulsory now. It's like, you know, "How'd you do that? How many? And how'd you do that?" And he says, basically, he says a twist on it every year, but it comes down to the same thing. He says, "I didn't use and I didn't die." Because that's living life on life's terms. You know, because it's going to happen. It happens. Good and bad. It happens. But we don't have to use. We can stay clean. We have an ability and a place to come to and share what goes on. I went through the death of my mother a couple of years after the death of my father, which was kind of different because I didn't like my mother. I loved my mother, but I didn't like her. You know, and there was a sense of indifference inside of me that I had to deal with. But I still came and I still talked about it, and I still shared about it. In fact, the day she died, the night she died, I came to a meeting, and I remember sharing very distinctly, I don't know what to feel. I don't know what to feel. Part of me is quite relieved. Part of me is happy because she's not suffering anymore. Part of me is sad. And I don't really know what to feel. Part of me is angry from past. Part of me is probably gleeful. So I don't really know what to feel. And essentially people told me the same thing. Man, we love you, man. We're glad you're here. We're glad you can talk about this. And I didn't have to use. You know, that's living life on life's terms. It's experience. What is clean time? Clean time is experience, not using. Don't get it twisted. That's all it is. You know the distance of ever using again is? That far. Mm-hmm. That's as far away from using we ever gonna get. Clean time is experience, not using. The longer I stay clean, the more experience I have not using. And it's the experiences of life that make up living life on its own terms. We can live through anything. We have a group of people we can talk about stuff with. We can share our feelings with. I can share the most deepest, horrible stuff with y'all when I do the fifth step. The last couple of times I've gone through the steps, I've done it in a group setting. And share about stuff that's horrible. Things that I've never in a million years thought I would ever tell anyone. And I can tell it to people. And find out that I'm no different than anybody else. We live life on its own terms. We all experience the same stuff. That's the other part of anonymity that's real important to me. Is that we're all in this together. It's equality. We need each other, you know. So I'm not going to share a whole heck of a long time, and I've never been one to share a long time. So with that, thanks everybody for helping me stay clean.
That was it.
That's it.
Holy crap! What time is it? Oh my God! I'm Miss Selma Addict. I've gotten this wrong every time I say it. From the South Central area. So they've changed it like 3 times, and I keep backing up and messing it up. So it's a new area for me. I moved a little over a year ago from my comfort zone. I have real bad ADD, and I'm exhausted. So good luck keeping up with me tonight. Let's go back to the beginning. So when I got clean, I didn't know crap about life on life's terms. I walked in here, I was 22 years old. I didn't know a lot about anything except using. And I wasn't positive this was where I wanted to be. It was, if there was a mistake to be made, I made it. And I had some hateful assholes in my home group. It was a little group, and thank God they were there, because they said horrible stuff like suit up, show up, and shut up. They said, and it changed every time I went to the meeting. I'd go and I'd talk a lot. They'd go, you need to shut up and listen. And so I didn't say anything. And they said, you ungrateful, you just think you have to come to the meeting and you don't have to share? You just wait for us to provide a meeting for you. I said, you told me shut the fuck up. And they said, well then, you can say your name and your addict and you're glad to be here. If you're not glad to be here, you can say that too. And that's enough. Thank you. We'd like you to share honestly, and that's as much honesty as you're capable of. And they were right. Life started showing up immediately. I wasn't sure what that was when it started happening. So I came in with that whole like get in a relationship, don't get in a relationship, you're not supposed to be in a relationship. The dude I had been on again, off again for almost 8 years. Well, it was his idea for me to go to those meetings anyway because I kept stealing his stuff. And every time we got high together, the cops came. So it was bad. And he suggested that he thought it'd be a good idea if I went and got some help. And I went not because I needed help, but I was positive because once I got there was I started listening to a little bit of Sharon, and I was like, well, I probably don't have a problem, but he definitely has problems. And so I need to listen so I can take this shit back and fix him. I might qualify for a lot of fellowships. And thought I needed to go to them all, and somebody corrected me real quick. They were like, welcome to NA. We handle everything. Addiction. You're addicted to eating and sexing and dope, and it doesn't matter which dope. Fill in the blank. Just be an addict. It's a lot easier if you just be an addict. I think he left. I know I didn't have a month and a half. Well, I'd been yelling and threatening to throw him out for the whole first 30 days I was clean, because people would come and get me. Those people that were so hateful, they were like, what are you doing tomorrow night? Well, we'll be at your house. We're going to the meeting an hour away. We're going to this other meeting. And I was like, but I don't know. They were like, be ready. We'll be there. Man, my God. I've met other folks that have it's funny now. It wasn't funny then. Like, I distinctly remember the 2 girls in my home group showing up because we were going to Brunswick for some kind of a picnic, and I didn't know anything about where we were going or anything. And so I went out to the car and said, just a minute. And then I went back in the house. Now we're not talking about the cute microwaves that they have now that look like Danny's bag. We're talking about a microwave, okay? And I carry it out. I'm like down the steps, and I'm like, open the door! And she said, what are you doing? I said, that motherfucker's not paying my microwave for crack! Because he'd taken everything else out of the house. And then we look around and, there's clothes all over the front of the yard because we've played the I'm leaving, no you're not, let me help you pack game, But I can't leave and I can't put him out because I love him. Welcome to, life on life's terms. And my early recovery was, woo. And those are the happy stories, I had some really super good people early on. I got a sponsor because I thought I should. And like I remember, somebody saying, but we're not going to tell you what to do. You're going to have to make a decision. And I'm like, but I this and I that. And they were like, look, you might be nobody's going to tell you what you have to do in your relationship. I don't have to go home with you. You're going to have to make that decision. I can't tell you this. This was I was like, but this is, and they said, look, you could be the only one in the hundreds of thousands of recovering people that came before you that can stay clean while living with somebody using in their face 24/7. You might be the only one. But the odds are stacked against you, And they'd already shared some other stuff with me. So I knew that, it was a rough gamble on Missy staying clean any amount of time, because at one of the meetings early, they were like, you're real smart. I was like, thank you. Yes, I am. I was gifted. And they were like, that's a shame. I went, oh, now I'm confused. I was like, what? What are you talking about? And they were like, man, it's really hard. See the dodo over there? He's got 1.5 years. See dumb ass over there? Because dumb people can't get this. And smart folks have a hard time. The more you know, the harder it is for you to learn anything. I was like, okay, I'm not real sure if I've been insulted or complimented, but let me call this girl and tell her what this asshole just said to me. They told me I had to make my own decisions. they said, you have real freedom. That whole thing where you were like, I'm grown, I can do whatever I want, I'm free. No, you were trapped, you were stuck. Now you really are free to make a decision. They said, no, I'm not telling them what to do. You make a decision. She said, but whatever you decide, you have to live with the consequences, and you're not allowed to use. And you're not allowed to quit coming to this meeting because you slept with so-and-so, and now you don't like who they're talking to. Not an excuse. So you do what you want. You want to sleep with those guys, knock yourself out. But it's going to make it real hard for you to come to this meeting with all 6 of us. That was some life on life's terms. But of course I had to test the water. And it hurt. Boom, I'm a slow learner. Sorry. I'm gifted, but I'm a slow learner. So, I distinctly remember not long after that, and I thought it was going to be a big secret, nobody would know. I thought nobody would know. Like they didn't know what was going on. And I stepped outside. You couldn't smoke in our meeting at that time because about 2 months before I got clean, they had set the church on fire. They put out a bunch of lit cigarettes or something and it's smoldering, and so they called the church, they called the trash can on fire, and so they would banned us from smoking in the church. And so I had stepped outside to smoke, and these girls one was from my home group, but she had a bunch of time. She had like almost a year and a half or something. And this other lady came from Brunswick. She had like 2 years or something. It was this crazy amount of time. And I could tell they were really working the program. Because there was this lying lady inside, and she said she had like 4.5 or 5 years or something. I knew she was just lying her bats off. Nobody could stay clean that damn long, But these 2 girls were sitting there, and I was kind of like I'm kind of sitting over there smoking, and they're talking, and and they were talking about this girl that had apparently all she did was come to meetings to meet men and get laid, and it was terrible. Now, years later, because I stayed clean and got like I knew, but the whole issue was the whole thing they were arguing about was that they were both sleeping with the same man, and he was sleeping with 2 others, and that's what they were really mad about. But at the time, all I heard was "N.A. ho." That's what I heard. And I was petrified. And I'd already had that one little bump, got to learn the hard way in my home group. And I remember hearing that. And so before I had 60 days clean, and I didn't ask them about it, I didn't do anything. I made a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to be involved with anybody in the rooms. Plus, I still had that nuthead, Mr. Throw the clothes out microwave. He's still at home. And, so I got all that going on. So life on life's term was do what you're going to do. If you get some suggestions from some folks that have possibly been down that road, you have a chance of making a better decision. But you're going to do what you're going to do, and we're not going to tell you what to do. And I've never been one. I've never had a sponsor that said, you will do this. I think in all my time clean, I've had a sponsor, 2 different sponsors give me 2 specific, you have to do this or else. And it wasn't or, it was or I can't work with you anymore because the behavior you're doing is deadly, and I don't want to see you die. Twice in almost 30 years. So probably because I'm not attracted to people that are real in your grill, like with this and with that. The Army sergeants are not my and I've never sponsored like an Army sergeant either. Because they're going to do what they're going to do, One of my very favorite songs is by Mary Chapin Carpenter. And sometimes you're the windshield and sometimes you're the bug, And I used to tell folks, recovery is a lot. Being in this fellowship, if you stick and stay, now I don't know how it is in metropolises, because I've been clean in rural areas the majority of my recovery. Very rural. I was laughing. We were talking in the hallway a little while ago. I've moved, and in my new area, you can put, like after I go to Region, it's so funny. I go to Region, they're like, they're reading off their little papers. They're like, I have 37 groups, and 29 of them came to the area, and we have hundreds of dollars to give. And we're having this event, that event, and the other event, and the other. And I'm just like, all right, go ahead and read yours. We have 3 groups. We have 7 meetings in our area. Everybody, we had 100% of the group show up for the area meeting. You can put every single person that attends NA in my entire area, which is over a 2.5-hour spread, in a minivan, and have room for the 5 guys from drug court. Because they'll let you sit on their lap. Gonna do what they're gonna do. Hey, anything. It's about attraction, not promotion. So, And that kind of thinking is how I got knocked up at 4 months clean. And I distinctly remember going to the meeting and going, man, it sucks, man. Y'all said I don't have to make a major decision. You said don't make a major. They said, we didn't tell you to sleep with it. It's like, he left. You said he's leaving. We didn't tell you to put him out. You went home and made a decision that you couldn't live with him because he was using. You were all like, and now I'm like, you can't live here anymore if you're going to keep using. And so he left, but you just kept letting him come by. So suck it up. Deal with it. So that's how I ended up with probably the best decision that I ever made in my life. The only one. And I love that child more than anything on earth. And I carried him clean. And then when he had some stuff going on, all of his guts were born on the outside. So I spent almost 2 months at the Ronald McDonald House while he was in intensive care in Savannah. Now keep in mind, all my pregnancy, I was clean and going to meetings and doing service and I went into labor at a region meeting. Charles Kuchar, I think, was like, he was like, what are you bitching about? And I'm like, my back hurts. They said, you're having a baby. I was like, no, I'm not. They're like, yes, you are. And I was still, I think I was doing lit. I was doing something. I remember getting lit orders at the Ronald McDonald House. He's in intensive care. I've got lit orders spread out all over the Ronald McDonald House floor. And I've got other moms in there helping me put together lit orders to take, because that's, you just do when, So life on life's terms meant, the wind's going to blow. And early on, I knew I couldn't, I had a rough time with God. I claimed agnostic for years. But I heard somebody in a meeting say, all these people that are like, God is testing me, or, if something good happens, you're like, it was God. God's so good. I'm doing so good. God's rewarding me. And they were like, well, what do you think's going to happen when some crap shows up? When they go, hey, we found a lump. You need to go for biopsy. Because you still are doing good. You're doing, all the right stuff. So, and I really don't think that the God that I follow is a mean God, or is like, oh, she's doing good, trick. Even though sometimes it comes and goes. Like, I still have that thought because I'm paranoid, and I think it's just part of addict thinking that we go, is this a trick? Is this a joke? It can't be this good, Well, there's some crazy movie. Danny was talking about movies. And the movie really is not all that fantastic, but the title of the movie was great, and it was As Good as It Gets. Mm-hmm. And I remember hearing that movie. It is a good movie, but I remember hearing that and celebrating another anniversary and going, You know, because the first one was like, you know, it's like, yay, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get geared. It's going to be fabulous. And about 2 weeks in, I'm going, okay, A, where's my parade? B, crap's not getting any better here. Like, you know, I'm doing stuff. And it was almost like, you know, well, okay, I'm trying here. And I know that God honors effort. And I know that sometimes crap just happens. And I know that a lot of the time, that sentence that we read at the beginning of every meeting about personal responsibility creating our own problems. I'm their queen, you know. Somebody real early in my recovery said, just keep, you're doing great, Missy, because everybody else that I sponsor can watch you and not do what you do. We're so happy you've stayed clean. You know, just keep coming, because, you know, see her, whatever she does, don't do that. Watch. Not that you will use, but see, it's painful. Give it 2 weeks. She'll be back in here sharing about it. You know, and I did. God, I've told people before, you know, sponsees and for that, you know, if you stay in this stuff, in this network. Now, like I said, it might be different in big cities where you can, you know, go to the meeting. You know, I did that one time. I traveled to see somebody pick up their masters. They got some degree, and I drove to Columbia, South Carolina, and so we went to a meeting. Judy was going to take me to a group, and because Coastal, I came from Coastal. Coastal was little. We was loud. There wasn't many of us, but we were loud. You know, you knew we were in the house. So, and that was when it included Savannah. So if you were on I-95, you were in my area. It was a big area, and we used to rotate. So it took us, we'd leave, it was 4.5 hours to get to the area meeting at 9 o'clock for subcommittees, you know. But service was a little different then. We loved each other. Yeah. We didn't like each other all the time, and there were times when we just lose it on each other, you know. But then we'd all hug and go eat together. And I don't see, life on life's term showing up in service these days has been a little different. That's kind of a different animal. But I keep going and hoping that, you know, it'll come swing back around. So Judy took me to this meeting, and we're sitting there, and like these people kept coming in, and they kept coming in. It was like in a YMCA or something. So if this room was full, and there were about 6 little card tables, that's about how big it was, and people lined up against the wall, and I'm sitting on the edge of the stage with Judy, and I'm going, holy crap, there's a lot of fucking people here. She said, Missy, this is one of our smaller meetings. I said, man, it must be really hard for you to learn where everybody lives. You know, and she thought I was kidding, and I have never lived in an area where I don't know where everybody in my home group or my entire area lives. I know where everybody in my area lives. And every person that comes to an NA meeting in my area, I know where they live. I've either been to their house to drop them off, or gone there to pick up stuff for a service commitment, or we've picked each other up, or had a picnic, or done whatever, or borrowed $20, or they paid back $20, you know. Because it's more than just that little meeting, and that's the part of the family and the fellowship that's what I need when life shows up. If it was just going to meetings for an hour in that space, I don't know that I would have stayed as long as I've stayed, you know. And so when I introduce myself and say, hey, family, it's because you guys are family. And I was an orphan by choice. I had a real toxic dynamic with my family, and incest, and just you name it, it was bad. And so I exited from dealing with that for the most part, for most of my recovery. And my dad passed. All my grandparents started passing. They lived a long time. It's been in the last 10 years that they started falling off. And then my dad passed. And out of the blue, I had started a reconciliation with my mother. and we're talking, and it's like she came for Christmas, you know. My sponsor Debbie, I'll never forget. We were either we might have been at a no, we could have been at GRCNA, because I remember she was excited to get to see Cecil because she hadn't seen Cecil in a long time, and I don't even know. It was like GRCNA in '94 or something, 92, 94 was a long time ago, and so it was close to the end. It was right after that, and she said, "I'm gonna stop at the store because I got to pick up a Mother's Day card or something." And I was like, What do you mean you have to be Mother's Day? It's her birthday or something. She's got to stop his card. And so she's standing there, she's like, her and her mom are like you are my best friend, and I love you so much, and we're so wonderful together, and da-da-da-da-da. You're the best mother. You're like my sister and my friend. All rolled. And I was like, you make me sick. You know, I was like, there's no card for me that says, I'm so glad you didn't screw me up worse than I already am screwed up. You know, love your kid. You know. So that resentment was there for years, and it's weird because, you know, somewhere in recovery and part of the whole life on lives, I know that wasn't her intention. I know she didn't roll out and go, let me see if I can really mess this up. I know because of, you know, I know she loves me. I know most moms love their kids, but she did the best she could with the knowledge that she had. She said that recently. We haven't had a real conversation yet either. That's probably on the 10-year plan. You know, but I did. We had a hit the door, and I said something that, you know, I can't. That whole, if you don't, you gotta stand for something or you'll fall for anything. So I said, you know, what you did, and that's not true, and that's not cool. And I need to know why you did that, because I'm having a feeling, which is not what I said to her, because I was losing my whenever I said it. You know, I made her FaceTime me at like 7 a.m. I said, you have to look at me, because I've never said anything to you ever, because we haven't talked. I don't talk to you. We don't talk. And damn it, you're going to look in my face when I ask you why you did such and such yesterday, because I don't understand. I don't understand. And it took me to get from 22 to 52 to be able to have that piece of a conversation with her. That's as real as it's gotten. And that's life on life's terms. And the only thing she said was, I didn't know. She's hated NA the whole time I've been here. All she knew was her kid was using it all over the place, and she's, you know, and then I got clean, and then suddenly I quit showing up. But I was really, really super active with you guys and having a ball. Like I was at every picnic and everything, and I wouldn't matter where I was, and I was dragging her grandchild. How dare I with those addicts, you know? You know, yeah, so she wasn't real thrilled with none of this. Her dad wasn't either. I had a story published in the NA Way when it used to come out. It was a magazine. I had the lead story. I wrote a story about camping in the rain, and I had the lead story published. And I gave it to my folks. I was so proud that I had done something, and like something, yay, you know, I hadn't done much else in my life. And my dad said, yeah, I know that's that little thing you do. And he threw it on the counter. I was like, I was crushed, you know. So she hadn't been real thrilled about, you know, this. So a couple weeks ago when we had that, and I cried at her basically, and she said, I didn't know what you were doing. I didn't know. I just knew that you weren't a part of us anymore, and I didn't know what you were doing. What I was doing was running a recovery house, and she never would come visit. She wouldn't come visit. She wouldn't cross the threshold. She said, that's what you do, go do it, you know. She's a businesswoman, and I called her for help, and she said, you're on your own, little girl. I didn't tell you to do it. You didn't ask whenever you ran over there and started it, so you made your bed, lay in it, and I'm just like, God, Mom, you run this really big business, and I need business help. And she's like, can't help you, suck it up. Maybe Google it, get you an attorney or an accountant or something, not me. So she right after Christmas, she called me and she was so excited. She wanted my input on her doing something, but she was all going to help this other lady do a recovery house, and I nutted up. I was like, "Are you kidding me? You know, you're gonna what? How can you be all happy for her? You don't even know her, and I did it. Why weren't you proud of me?" She said, "Well, it's so funny because I learned it here." She said, "When we know better, we do better." You know, and that's been life on life's terms. I mean, in every situation, I handle every situation the best I know how at that moment. And if I have enough grace, and God, thank God, y'all hold me together, because it says in the book, addicts can't make consistently good decisions. We have screwed up knowledge and bad background and self-centered and traits that make us not do good. You know, me first and you never, and you know, we just don't do it good. So when life shows up, if I don't have you guys holding on to me and some kind of footing and some step work and God, I need all that to hold me together. So I pray, you know, at some point, whenever life shows up, good or bad. I had to teach my kid that too. We would talk about consequences and he would cry. He would lose it. He was like, "I don't want consequences." I said, "Consequences can be good, honey. If you do your homework and you get a good grade, you get cake and $5. You know, you get good things. Consequences, they're not all bad, you know." But he's his mama's child. To this day, when somebody says, "We need to talk," I'm like, "I don't think I'm getting a raise." I'm like, that's not the first thing. I don't go, "That's it." I'm like, "Oh shit," you know. So, and even this workshop, Life on Life's Terms, it sounds horrible. It sounds like, oh my God, you know. It doesn't sound like I won the lottery. They should get lottery people to come do this. Like, life showed up and I won the lottery and yay, you know. It's not the way we think. But life has shown up in a number of fabulous ways, usually because I was taking direction outside of myself and getting some input and doing some work. And some of it's been fantastic. I got a lot of blessings that I didn't expect or deserve. I hope that I have the ability to give more than I get. And that'll be not a bad legacy. I have no idea how long I've talked, but I'm tired of talking. And if there's any time left, I would love to hear somebody else share their experience with Life on Life's Terms. So thank y'all for letting me share.
Thank you. My name's Danny. I'm an addict. I was supposed to do this before I forgot. My name's Danny. I'm an addict, and I'm from South Atlanta area. Okay. I want to just read something out of the basic text, and then I guess we'll just open up the floor. Page 51, how it works. And it says, once we find the NA way, boredom and complacency have no place in our life. By staying clean, we begin to practice spiritual principles such as hope, surrender, acceptance, honesty, open-mindedness, willingness, faith, tolerance, patience, humility, unconditional love, sharing, and caring. As our recovery progresses, spiritual principles touch every area of our lives because we simply try to live this program in the here and now. Thanks, everybody.
Love you, Dan.